Well, hey, my name is Brandon Leone. I'm from Conroe, Texas, and I've been attending Restoration Church since December of 2021. I grew up with a pretty tough childhood, and when I was 14, 15 months, my real dad left my mom. But in that time, he was extremely abusive to her. And I mean, she had scars on her chest from cigarettes that he would burn on her chest when he would pin her down, and was just physically and emotionally abusive and unfaithful to her. And I think because of that, my mom turned to substance abuse to cope. And so a lot of my childhood early on was it was pretty tumultuous. We moved around a lot. Growing up, we really didn't go to church that much. I know that my mom knew the Lord, but it wasn't a thing that we made a priority in our life. We were kind of the 2 times a year Christians, right? We'd go on church or on Christmas, and then we'd go on Easter. I was kind of ultimately indifferent. Growing up to God, I believed that there was a God and a higher power, but I definitely didn't think that he was interested in me. And at the time, I would be saying in my own mind, well, man, if he's so good, then how come, my family life doesn't look like my friend's family life at school? How come my mom can be, the most sweet, loving, humble, and engaging person in the world at times, and then disappear, or treat me and my brother really poorly? But one of the things that I think was a saving grace for me, growing up before I knew the Lord was sports. And I just remember, my first Little League football game, I'll never forget it. I was returning kickoffs, they kicked it over my head, and I turned around and ran and grabbed it, and I ran all the way back for a touchdown. And I remember looking to the sideline and seeing my mom, with this big smile on her face, and I thought, okay, I can get behind this, I'm gonna keep doing this. So again, that affirmation thing, right? I was just constantly trying to get people to like me, and I would do whatever I could, to make that happen. And it worked out for me at the time, right? I ended up, having the opportunity to sign with Texas A&M out of Oak Ridge High School and went to college. And the day that my mom dropped me off, it was the first time that I was ever away from my mom in the situations that she was in. And so I was just really scared, because I was afraid, because she wasn't making good decisions. And, even the first month or so in College Station, she would be calling me, begging me to come home, and she would be, drunk or struggling. And so kind of the pressure of all that, since I'd really never dealt with all the heaviness of that growing up, I really just kind of folded. I turned to absolutely all the wrong things. I had so much pain deep in my heart. I was dead inside, and I was running to all these things that the world had told me would bring me life, and they were actually doing the opposite. They were sucking life away from me, and I was lonely, I was depressed, I was insecure. The Lord was so faithful even before I knew him. He put people in my life that were pursuing me, from a ministry standpoint. They were encouraging me to go to these Bible studies and to this thing called Breakaway Ministries. And man, I didn't want anything to do with it, man. I thought everybody that was a Christian was a square, or corny and lame and all the things that people outside of the church that don't really know Jesus think, right? I thought, man, I don't want anything to do with these guys. And I'll never forget, I went to this thing called After Dark that Joe White goes around to these campuses, and he presents the gospel. And he stands up there and he builds the cross. And as he's sitting up there building the cross, just building who's this Jesus guy, who loves the broken, like who eats dinner with the sinners. Who's this Jesus guy that, wants to spend time with the people that are doing the wrong thing, that wants to heal people? And I'm just sitting there kind of thinking, and he ends up building the cross, and then he shows this video of a man and his son, and their names are Rick and Dick Hoyt. And the man's son was a paraplegic, and they're sitting there watching a marathon one day, and his son communicated to him in the way that he could communicate and said, "Hey, Dad, I want to cross the finish line with you." He does like the Iron Man in Hawaii, swimming with his son in tow, riding his bike, running and pulling him. And you see the joy that this boy has and the sacrifice that this father made. He shows a video, he plays a worship song, which of course made me cry. I know my Redeemer lives, and I'm bawling my eyes out. And he turns to the crowd and he says, Hey, I don't know about your relationship with your dad. I don't know if he's a good dad, if he's a present dad. But what I know is that if you think that this father that trained for his son to do an Ironman with him, if you think that this father loves his son a lot, man, I got a story for you. And I was caught, hook, line, and sinker, man. I gave my life to Jesus, and it was crazy. It was life-changing. But ultimately, what ended up happening for me is, I continued to surround myself, with the same people. I didn't really change my surroundings, and I was, frustrated with this lack of transformation in my own life. But it was because I was running to all those old things. I gave my life to Jesus, but then I ran back to the things that were taking life from me. I ended up, making the decision not to really pursue, football after that, because my mom was kind of struggling and in a bad place. And so I just kind of started looking for jobs. And then I got a job offer in San Antonio. And it was not a crazy job offer, but for me at the time, I thought it was like I was rolling in the dough, And so I called my mom and I told her, hey, I really want you to take some time away, from the situation that you're in. I want to get you in Celebrate Recovery. I'm moving to San Antonio for this job, and I'm going to come get you, move you up. And it took a lot of conversations to get her to kind of finally give in, and she did. And so July 1st, I go up to San Antonio first, to go move in. And I was going to live with some buddies and then try to get her a place. And my Uncle Dale started calling my cell phone. And he called so much, I answered the phone. And he just starts crying. I said, man, what's wrong, Dale? Are you okay? And he's just crying. He's like, man, I don't know how to tell you this. I'm like, what, man? I thought something was wrong with my aunt, And he said, your mom went to be with Jesus today. I got out of the car. I just sat down on the ground next to my truck. And I started crying, because we're a few days out, from potentially, getting her out of that situation. And I thought, man, I don't understand this. And I just was praying, and I was like, man, you know what, Lord? I'm so tired of all these games. Every single thing in my life that I thought would bring me joy has not. Whether it was football, whether it was girls, whether it was drugs, whether it was popularity, whether it was trying to make my mom or other family members happy, nothing is helping me. I feel empty, I feel alone, and I just can't handle this. And I said, you know what, I'm just gonna go all in. I'm gonna give you everything that everyone's told me to give you, which is all of my heart. And I'm gonna see if you are who you say you are. So the crazy part, about all that and the Lord, moving in my heart even after my mom passed, is that he changed, every single thing about me, and I always like to tell, people now, is I changed my playground, I changed my playmates, and I changed my pastimes. The way that I operate in life now as a husband, as a father, as a professional, as a friend, is completely different. And the Lord, slowly through the process of sanctification and being rooted in good community and rooted in his word, he changed me. All these different things and things that I started to turn to, the very things that I hated and despised, I turned to. And all the while, the Lord is steady, just whispering in our ear, hey, taste and see that the Lord is good. Come here. I have more plans for you. And so I began to flee the things that were taking life from me in the past and pursue the things that gave life. Jesus, community, my wife, my kids, the people that God's put in my life. And all he ever wanted from me was my heart and a relationship with me. And so, it's worth it to me. He's worth it. And so despite some extremely hard things, God has proven to be who he says he is over and over and over again in my life. And he's blessed me, with a beautiful wife, 2 beautiful kids, and an amazing family. The things that I thought would bring me life brought me death. And the one thing that I used to try to avoid and run away from has brought me more life than I ever thought possible.